I want you to picture two houses. Same suburb, same street, similar mortgage payments. The first house belongs to someone earning $110,000 a year. Walk inside and you'll find a 3-car garage with 2 cars and a jet ski nobody's taken out since last summer. A home theater setup that costs $6,000, used mostly to watch the same streaming service available on a laptop. A walk-in closet so packed, the doors don't close cleanly. A gym membership, a Peloton, and a set of dumbbells, all 3 paid for simultaneously. A backyard with a pool that's chemically maintained every 2 weeks, whether anyone swims or not. This person opens their banking app like they're defusing a bomb. Every month ends the same way, wondering where it all went. The second house belongs to someone earning $48,000 a year. Walk inside and you'll notice something immediately. It feels intentional. A clean living room with furniture that fits the space. A single car in the driveway, reliable and paid off. A kitchen with maybe 12 tools, all of them used weekly. A closet where everything visible gets worn. A backyard with a patch of grass and a decent chair. This person sleeps without a knot in their chest. They have 22 months of expenses saved. They invest $600 every single month without thinking about it. Same suburb, same street. The person earning less than half has built more than 10 times the financial stability. This is not a story about salaries. It's a story about a silent system that rewards some people and quietly destroys others. And almost nobody talks about it openly. The first person isn't reckless in any dramatic way. No gambling, no debt spirals, no obvious red flags. They simply said yes to everything their income made possible, and that yes compounded into a lifestyle that now requires every dollar they earn just to stay upright. The second person learned one thing that changed the entire equation. They learned that choosing less is not the same as having less. It's choosing deliberately. And deliberate choices create margin, financial breathing room that most high earners spend their whole careers chasing without ever catching. What I'm going to share with you today are the exact principles that separate people who quietly build wealth from people who quietly wonder why they can't, regardless of what their paycheck says. These aren't restrictions, they're corrections, ways of seeing money and objects clearly, possibly for the first time. Start here, with the idea that will reframe every purchase you make from this point forward. Everything you own charges you rent. The price on the tag is just the first bill. The second bill arrives every single month, silently, whether you notice it or not. That second bill includes the physical space an object occupies. Space in your home is not free. In most mid-sized cities, you're paying somewhere between $25 and $45 per square foot annually. That kayak mounted on your garage wall takes up roughly 25 square feet of floor and wall space. That's over $1,000 a year in implicit rent you're paying to store something you used 4 times last summer. The second bill includes maintenance. That riding lawnmower needs oil, blades, storage, and occasional repairs. The vacation cabin you invested in needs insurance, utilities, property taxes, and upkeep even during the 44 weeks a year nobody's staying in it. Industry estimates suggest second properties routinely cost 3 to 5% of their value annually just to exist. The second bill includes your attention. Every item you own is a small open tab in your brain. Something to be cleaned, moved, insured, worried about, organized around, or eventually dealt with. Neuroscience research is clear on this. Environments with excess objects measurably increase cortisol and reduce cognitive clarity. Your clutter is not neutral. It is actively working against you. And the second bill includes what that money could have become. The $18,000 sitting in a boat depreciating in your driveway is not just $18,000. Over 15 years in a basic index fund, that's closer to $60,000. You didn't buy a boat. You traded a future sum you'll never see for a weekend hobby you rarely use. When you honestly add these bills together, the true cost of ownership frequently exceeds the original purchase price, sometimes within the first 2 or 3 years. The sticker price was never the real number. It was just the cost of entry. People who build wealth understand this. They're not frugal because they lack taste. They're frugal because they've done the arithmetic and decided most objects simply aren't worth the total invoice. Rule 1. Calculate cost per use before you buy anything. Before any purchase, ask yourself one question. Realistically, not optimistically, not aspirationally. How many times will I actually use this? Divide the full cost by that number. That's your cost per use. It's the only metric that tells you the truth. A $250 blender used once a month for 3 years costs about 70 cents per use. That's a reasonable purchase. A $250 blender used 6 times and forgotten costs over $40 per use. That's not a kitchen appliance. That's an expensive decoration. This math dismantles impulse purchases immediately. That $400 pasta maker you're considering will probably be used 4 times before the novelty fades. That's $100 per bowl of pasta in year 1 alone. But the same calculation justifies quality, where quality earns its place. A $1,800 mattress used nightly for a decade costs under 50 cents per night. That's extraordinarily good value for something directly tied to your health, focus, and mood every single day. A $600 pair of work boots, worn daily for 5 years, costs less than 35 cents per wear. The expensive choice is often the cheaper choice when the math is done honestly. Cost per use cuts through every marketing message, every seasonal sale, every social media unboxing. It shows you what something is actually worth versus what it feels worth in the moment. Rule 2. Run the replacement test on everything you already own. Walk through your home slowly. Look at each object. Ask yourself one question with full honesty. If this disappeared tonight, stolen, broken, gone, would I spend real money to replace it? Not would you theoretically replace it. Would you actually go and buy another one? Would you replace that bread maker on the top cabinet shelf? Would you replace those 3 sets of luggage when you only ever travel with one? Would you replace the stationary bike that currently stores clean laundry more than it burns calories? For most items in most homes, the honest answer is no. These objects exist not because they were chosen deliberately, but because they were never actively removed. They arrived through impulse, through obligation, through phases of enthusiasm that have long since passed. They stay through inertia. Inertia is expensive. Items that fail the replacement test have negative value. They consume space, attention, and cleaning time while contributing nothing in return. Every Saturday morning spent reorganizing things you wouldn't replace is time spent maintaining a lifestyle you didn't consciously choose. Sell what has market value. Donate what someone else could use. Discard what serves nobody. The discomfort of letting go lasts a weekend. The clarity that replaces it lasts indefinitely. Rooms feel bigger. Cleaning takes a fraction of the time. Decisions feel lighter. You know where everything is because everything left has a reason to be there. Rule 3. Stop upgrading things that still work. There is a specific pattern I've observed in people who earn above average incomes and have below average savings. They upgrade working items not because those items failed, but because they got bored, or because a newer version was released, or because someone in their circle bought something shinier. The laptop processes every task they need. The new one processes them 3 seconds faster. The car starts every morning and gets them to work reliably. The new model has ambient interior lighting. The couch is structurally sound and comfortable. The new collection came out, and they've grown tired of the color. These upgrades feel like progress. Financially, they are wealth erosion dressed in new packaging. Define functional clearly. An item is functional until it genuinely cannot perform the task you need it to perform. Not until a better version exists. Not until a neighbor upgraded. Not until the marketing is compelling enough. not until boredom sets in. The average person replaces a working smartphone every 26 months. Over 30 years, that pattern costs between $35,000 and $55,000 for devices that were already capable of doing everything required. Apply that same upgrade compulsion to cars, furniture, appliances, clothing, and electronics, and the lifetime cost easily clears $250,000. Every dollar of that is money that could have been compounding toward a life you actually want. Instead, it funded a cycle of marginal improvements to things that didn't need improving. Rule 4. Engineer your behavior, not your willpower. Nobody has the discipline to make good financial decisions every single time. Willpower is finite. It degrades under stress, fatigue, and emotion, which is precisely when the most damaging spending decisions get made. Wealth isn't built through superior self-control. It's built through superior system design. Make spending harder. Remove saved payment details from shopping sites. Delete retail apps from your phone. Set a firm 48-hour waiting period before any non-essential purchase. Unsubscribe from every promotional email. Avoid stores unless you're there for a specific predetermined item. Make saving easier. Set automatic transfers to investment accounts on the same day your paycheck arrives. Keep only a modest buffer in your everyday checking account. Treat your savings contribution the same way you treat your rent. Non-negotiable, not optional. Already gone before you decide how to spend. The structural change matters more than the intention behind it. Someone who deleted the retail apps and has no saved card numbers cannot complete an impulse purchase at 11 p.m. when they're emotionally exhausted. Someone relying on willpower in that same moment will eventually fail. Not occasionally, repeatedly. Research suggests that a mandatory waiting period eliminates roughly 2/3 of impulse purchases. Most desire for objects dissolves within 24 to 48 hours, if not immediately acted upon. The feeling was never about the object. The object was just the nearest available thing. Rule 5. Count what you own. This feels excessive until you actually do it. Then it feels necessary. Count your shirts. Most people estimate around 15 and discover they own 32. Count your kitchen gadgets. Count your shoes. Count the items in that one drawer everyone has, the drawer that's full of things with no assigned place. The act of counting makes the invisible visible. It converts a vague sense of, I have a lot of stuff, into a specific number that is hard to rationalize away. Once you know you own 32 shirts, buying a 33rd is a different psychological transaction. You're not buying a shirt. You're expanding a collection that is already excessive. The absurdity becomes undeniable. Set category limits. Maybe 30 total items of clothing, maybe 12 books at any one time, maybe a strict one in, one out policy. Anything new requires removing something existing. These limits aren't punishment. They're the mechanism that keeps lifestyle creep from quietly rebuilding everything you worked to clear. Rule 6. Rent or borrow before you commit to owning. Most major purchases follow a predictable pattern. Enthusiasm is high. Usage is intensive for several weeks. Novelty fades. Usage drops. The item joins everything else that's owned but rarely touched. Before buying, rent. Before investing, borrow. Before committing to ownership, test whether the enthusiasm survives contact with reality. Want to get into cycling? Rent a bike for a month before buying one. Want to try home brewing? Borrow equipment from someone who went through the same phase. Want a paddleboard? Rent it across several weekends before purchasing. This reveals two things. First, whether the interest is genuine or a passing impulse. A surprising number of enthusiasms dissolve after a few real experiences rather than imagined ones. Better to discover this while renting than after spending $800 on equipment that lives in your garage. Second, it reveals exactly what you need. First-time buyers routinely overbuy or buy the wrong configuration. Renting first means when you do purchase, you buy precisely what your actual use requires, rather than your imagined maximum use. Garages and spare rooms across the country are filled with the physical evidence of interests people borrowed their identity from temporarily. Hiking gear, telescopes, surfboards, DSLR cameras, recording equipment. The objects remain long after the enthusiasm left. Minimalists test before they buy. They explore without immediately owning. Rule 7. Calculate the full ecosystem before any major purchase. Nothing expensive exists in isolation. Every major purchase generates a surrounding ecosystem of required supporting purchases. A hot tub needs chemicals, a cover lifter, electrical upgrades, privacy screening, and quarterly maintenance. A camera needs lenses, memory cards, a bag, a tripod, editing software, and storage solutions for the files it generates. A large dog needs food, grooming, vet care, boarding when you travel, a bed, a crate, training classes, and liability insurance in some municipalities. The listed price is the entry fee into an ecosystem of ongoing costs. The real number is rarely the one on the tag. Before any purchase above a certain threshold, map the full ecosystem. Every supporting purchase the main item will require, every recurring cost it will generate, every additional item that won't be optional after the main item arrives. This full accounting regularly transforms what seemed like a reasonable purchase into something obviously excessive once everything is included. And it works powerfully in reverse. Eliminating one major item frequently eliminates an entire category of supporting expenses simultaneously. Rule 8. Define what enough looks like before income grows. This is the trap that catches nearly everyone who earns well. They never decide in advance what enough means. So every income increase gets absorbed by lifestyle expansion. The new salary normalizes quickly. The gap between what they earn and what they spend never meaningfully widens. They feel financially stuck at $90,000, the same way they felt stuck at $55,000. The number changed, the pattern didn't. Decide before the income arrives. What kind of home is genuinely sufficient for your life? What vehicle reliably meets your needs without exceeding them? What annual spending number represents real comfort? Not imagined comfort, not social comparison, but actual day-to-day satisfaction. Write that number down. Protect it. When income grows beyond it, let the excess flow entirely into savings and investment rather than lifestyle. The person who defined enough at $55,000 annually and then started earning $130,000 is in a fundamentally different financial position than the person earning the same $130,000 while constantly redefining enough upward. The math is straightforward. The discipline required to execute it is not, but it is learnable. Rule 9. Measure wealth by what you can choose, not what you can show. The conventional display of wealth is about accumulation. Square footage, brand names, visible markers that signal a certain level of arrival. The actual experience of wealth is about options. Can you leave a job that's costing you your health? Can you take 3 months away to be present for a family crisis? Can you say no to a high-paying opportunity that conflicts with your values? Can you absorb a significant financial disruption without it becoming a catastrophe? Can you choose where to live based on where you actually want to be? These are the things money can actually buy, and they're only available to people who've built meaningful margin between what they earn and what they spend. The person earning $180,000 and spending $173,000 has almost no real freedom. They are functionally dependent on every paycheck continuing without interruption. One serious disruption, and everything is at risk. The person earning $70,000 and spending $42,000 has extraordinary freedom relative to their income. They can absorb shocks. They can make choices. They can say no. Every purchase is a trade. You are exchanging optionality for an object. Ask honestly whether the object is worth reducing your ability to freely choose the direction of your own life. Sometimes the answer is yes. More often, it isn't. Rule 10. Declutter in cycles, not in crises. The most common pattern in people who attempt to simplify goes like this. They hit a breaking point, do a massive purge, feel immediate relief, and experience real clarity for a few weeks. Then slowly, imperceptibly, new things arrive. Old habits return. Within 18 months, they're back to where they started, wondering what happened. Cyclical decluttering does. Weekly, spend 5 minutes on incoming items. Monthly, evaluate one specific category. Quarterly, take a broader look at overall accumulation trends. This is not a dramatic exercise. It's maintenance, the same way you maintain anything else you want to keep functioning well. Small, regular reviews catch accumulation before it becomes overwhelming. Removing 4 or 5 items per week is sustainable indefinitely. Removing 400 items twice a year is exhausting and tends to get indefinitely postponed. Regular review also builds self-knowledge. You start to see which categories in your life tend to silently grow, which emotional states, stress, boredom, social comparison, trigger acquisition, which specific marketing formats work on you specifically. That awareness is more valuable than any single purge because it prevents the problem rather than just periodically treating it. Here's where to start. This week, walk through your home with the replacement test. Find 10 items you genuinely would not replace if they disappeared. Remove them. Notice what that removal feels like, not just in the space, but in your thinking. This month, apply the 48-hour rule to every non-essential purchase. Track which desires survive the wait and which dissolve. The ratio will tell you something significant about how much of your spending has ever been intentional. This quarter, count your possessions in 3 categories: clothing, kitchen items, and whatever category in your home tends to quietly accumulate. Set a hard maximum for each. This year, write down what enough means to you across every major spending category: housing, transportation, clothing, entertainment. Put it somewhere visible. Refer to it whenever an upgrade presents itself and argues that your current standards are no longer sufficient. Here is what nobody tells you about this approach. It is self-reinforcing. The less you own, the more you save. The more you save, the more secure you feel. The more secure you feel, the less you need to spend in pursuit of that security. The less you spend, the faster the savings grow. Most consumption isn't actually about the objects. It's about filling a gap that financial insecurity creates. Address the insecurity through real savings, and the compulsion to fill that gap with purchases often diminishes on its own. The stuff was never really about the stuff. The 2 houses I described at the beginning are not separated by luck or extraordinary income or unusual sacrifice. They're separated by 10 principles applied consistently over time. Principles that anyone in any income bracket can begin using today. The question is simply this: are you building a life around your possessions or building a life in spite of them? The math already knows the answer. Now you do too.